Hi everyone, it's Michael, and it's time for the January 2020 Orchid Collection Update. And I am so excited to show you everything and tell you everything. This is my very first update in my new home in San Francisco, and I can't tell you, this transition from Los Angeles to San Francisco has quite unexpectedly yielded so much positive momentum for all of my plants. I really didn't see it coming, but they are thriving, as is evident from all of these blooms behind me. So I think the biggest contributing factor to that is the water quality. Now, when I was in the process of relocating, I kept hearing from people that San Francisco's water quality is notoriously soft. But until I got in with my instruments and started measuring, I didn't really understand what they meant. So straight out of the tap here, my water quality has a reading of 6 TDS. Now, just to give you a point of reference, straight out of the tap in Los Angeles, my water had a TDS of 430 on average, which is like liquid cement. So the water here is super soft, super clean. It's even better than my water was with reverse osmosis in Los Angeles because that averaged around 50 to 75. So the plants are really responding accordingly. They understand that they're receiving high quality water. They are thriving. Mineral buildup is resolving super quickly, and my plants are flowering, spiking, everything is happening. I think that there is a beautiful dialogue and synergy between the addition of my artificial LED grow light and this water quality because the plants are just winning. So in regard to the system that I'm using to care for my plants this month, it is the exact same as last month with the exception of the water source. In Los Angeles, I was using reverse osmosis water to flush my containers. Here, I'm using water straight out of the tap, again, because the water quality is so good. Now, I'm flushing all of the containers once to twice a month. I am topping off their water reservoir with dilute nutrient solution as usual, and I am continuing to mist all of my plants in the morning, and things are going great. Another update for you is after a long period of not adding any plants to my collection, I I felt the urge again. I'm settled, I have all of my plants here, everything is going so well that I felt compelled to add a new member to the family. So I'm really excited to introduce you to number 63 in my collection. This is my Restrepia cuprea. Now, I wish I could show you what this looks like in bloom, but I don't have rights to any of the images, so you'll just have to Google it. But this plant, I saw it on someone's Instagram and I lost my damn mind. I immediately knew I needed to have it. So I went online, I found it on Glassbox Tropicals, and I ordered it. It is so stunning. I've already gotten it repotted. I wish I had been able to film a formal repot video for this process, but unfortunately I was so sick and had no voice whatsoever. So in place of doing that, I took these quick videos. Here I'm soaking the plant in Captain Jack's Dead Bug, which is a new organic pesticide that I'm exploring. I removed all of the dead and decaying matter before potting it up in predominantly sphagnum moss over a layer of leca. This is a system that I'm favoring for moisture-loving plants, and it seems to be going very well. So that is number 63. I am so excited to have her as a part of the family. Now, one final piece of housekeeping. I did want to invite you to follow me on Instagram at The Bearded Beauty Bible. It's interesting because I use my Instagram for all of the in-between moments with my plants. So when I discover a flower spike emerging, when something's about to bloom, I like to capture and document all of that on my Instagram stories. So go ahead and follow me there if that interests you, again, at The Bearded Beauty Bible. Now, without further lead-in, let's just go ahead and jump in and talk about the plants that have something new, different, and interesting happening this month. All right, my friends, jumping in with number 7 in the collection, we have my To My Kids Dendrobium Nobile Ii. I actually just recently brought this one out of dormancy because it produced 3 buds. Now, this one has a really interesting tendency. What it does in January is it'll produce, I'm gonna call them herald blooms to let me know that it's time to start rewatering. So it will usually give me about 2 to 4 blooms in January, and then it'll give me about 18 to 24 come March. So it's very peculiar. I don't know if anyone else experiences anything like this, but it does it every single year since I've had it. So that's really lovely and exciting. Now I'm super excited to move on to number 11 in the collection. This is my Psychopsis Mendenhall Hildos. I've had this plant since May of 2017. I've almost had it for 3 full years and I've never gotten it to bloom. And would you look what's happening? Oh my, I lost my damn mind when I saw this flower spike poke out because these ones are sequential bloomers. They can bloom off the same flower spike. It's been documented for periods of up to 20 years. So it'll drop a flower and then it'll take about another 3 weeks for a new bud to appear and bloom. But I'm so excited. I've been wanting this one to bloom forever. But again, that beautiful synergy between the water quality and the elevated light has really helped it happen. And this one actually gives you some pretty clear indicators so you can see how beautiful the modeling on the leaves is. It gets very washed out when it's not receiving enough light, and it becomes very vivid when it's receiving the proper amount of light. So I'm just so excited to see this one in bloom. Now, on to another success story. We're looking at number 12 in my collection. This is my Oxalotl Prince Phalaenopsis. This was a Home Depot rescue years ago, and for the very first time, I'm getting it to bloom. You can see that the flower spike has developed kind of wonky because of all of the changing light sources. This started to spike when it was in Los Angeles and has been moved multiple times in my apartment. So it kind of started to curve, and now it's curving back. It's very peculiar, but I'm very excited to see this one in bloom. Now moving on to number 13 in the collection. This is my No ID Phragmipedium. The thing that I find the most exciting about this is it's actually doing well, consistently, and it never has. Look how vivid green it is. All of the dieback that was on the old growths is really, really subsiding. And the fans on each growth are getting larger than they ever have before. And you can see if I take you into the container itself, it really has a much better established root system. You can't see past the algae. By the way, I keep getting that question. No, algae is not a problem. Algae grows where there are nutrients and light. And so once you get past this immediate layer next to the glass, the algae doesn't continue to grow. So I do not believe it's a threat. I do not believe it's a problem. The only annoyance it provides to me is that sometimes when I'm topping off the water reservoir, I can't see where the water is. So that's the only problem that I have with the algae existing in the container, but I don't think it's problematic. I also did an entire video on understanding algae, which I will link below. So now jumping from number 13, we're gonna go to number 17 in the collection, another giant success story. I have had this Ascocenda Betty May Steele Carmella for so long. I originally potted it in Semi-Hydroponics. I kept it there for years. It should not have stayed in there. It wants to be in basket culture. It needs a lot of air to the roots. And so I got it repotted. It established a brand new root system. And now look what's happening. For the very first time since I've had it, it is spiking, and I could not be more thrilled. I thought for a while it wasn't receiving the proper light levels. It was just in a western-facing exposure, but that appears to be plenty sufficient to induce spiking. It wasn't struggling against light levels. It was struggling against not being able to breathe. It was suffocating in a semi-hydroponic container. Once I took it out and it was able to produce a brand new root system, it immediately started to spike. So that's really, really wonderful. Now we're gonna move on to number 18 in the collection. This is my Zygopedilum, a source of ongoing frustration, but no more. This one is doing so well. It has put down quite an expansive root system in the container. Again, I did that potting method where I put leca up to the drainage holes, and then I filled the rest with sphagnum moss, and it appears to be precisely what this plant wanted, along with other plants in my collection. I'm gonna do a more detailed video on it because it seems to be the answer for so many plants. But it produced these two new growths finally, where in the past, every single new growth died off, but it produced two mature pseudobulbs. At first, I thought this was a flower spike, but it actually isn't. It's a new growth. But you can see it's producing two new growths, a whole flush of new roots. So this plant is doing really, really well for the first time since I've had it. Now we're gonna move on to number 25 in the collection. This is my Epidendrum Green Hornet. This one put down a completely brand new root system, which you can see here. Actually, let me take you in closer. You can see the old root system. It's kind of that pale gray, dull green, and then you can see the vivid new roots coming in. But as soon as I put it under the LED grow light, it started to do that. And as soon as it started receiving the better quality water, it immediately put out not one new growth, you see it poking out at the base of that pseudobulb there, but two new growths. So there's another one coming in here. So that's really wonderful and exciting. Now on to number 28. We know her, we love her. She is just my most consistent bloomer. I have missed her blooms so much because I divided her, and it's to be expected that that sets the plant back a bit. But this one very discreetly, I didn't even realize that there was a bud on it until it was almost ready to bloom. But here she is, and the fragrance, the perfume of this, again, I wish smell-o-vision existed because it is filling the entire space of my apartment. It is so, so gorgeous. Hi, little beautiful lady. She is just one of my absolute favorites. And the divisions are doing well too. Now we're gonna jump to number 46 in the collection. This is my Oncidium Twinkle White Pink. Now it's so funny because well before this plant ever did much for me, people kept saying, brace yourself, once it goes into spike, it's gonna take forever before it blooms. So I am now in that waiting game because look who's giving me a flower spike for the very first time since I've had her. You can see the new growth produced a beautiful new pseudobulb, and that pseudobulb is actually larger than any of the growths that preceded it, which is kind of nice. It has another new growth coming in here, and I believe that one will go into spike shortly as well. But look at this flower spike coming in. I'm just so, so excited that it's finally doing it. The blooms on this are so delicate and lovely. So I'm really, really excited to see this one go into bloom. Now we're gonna jump to number 52 in the collection. This is my Renanthera Calsum Red Dragon. And what I wanted to point out here was a few things. I don't know if you can tell, but look how much larger the leaf is than all of the other growths. And this has happened since I put it under artificial light. It has just really, really begun to excel in how much it is investing in its vegetative growth. It's growing much faster. It's putting out new leaf after new leaf. You can see this one isn't even fully formed yet, and it's already spitting out another leaf. But the other thing it's doing for the very first time is it's putting out aerial roots. Now, I'm curious to know if this will go similarly to number 17 in the collection, and once it has an established aerial root system, spike. So I've gone back and forth many times. I will link the video of repotting my Vandaceous orchid types below, but I wanted to repot this one because I thought it would follow the same template as my Ascocenda and my Vanda. But it really is marching to the beat of its own drum. It has an incredibly well-established root system that's using water solution properly in the container, but now it's also supplementing with some aerial roots. And that's actually remarkably similar to the pattern that I observe with a lot of my Phalaenopsis orchids. So I wonder if once this has a few, we'll call them breathing roots, and the other ones are water roots. I know that they both do both, but I think that that's the specific objective of this plant pushing out these new roots, is to breathe. I think we might see a flower spike soon. Now we're gonna jump to number 54. I did a bloom profile on this a while back, and it's still in bloom. This went into bloom in December, and it is now February. Today's February 1st. So this plant has been in bloom for almost 3 months. It's really remarkable for a Cattleya. I did not expect that. Of course, each individual spike was not in bloom for 3 months. Each individual spike will last for a period of about 2 to 3 weeks, but this plant produced 3 spikes and has been blooming since December, which is really exciting. And last but not least, we're gonna move to my Belarus Peggy Ruth Carpenter. Now, I'm super excited about this one because I honestly didn't think anything good was happening with this plant. It just appeared to have completely stagnated in Los Angeles. And then as soon as I got it here, it just started maturing pseudobulbs and producing flower spikes. Now, it's crazy because I'm gonna take you into this one. It produced this kind of weak and sickly pseudobulb. I don't know if sickly is the right word. It's just kind of underdeveloped if you look at it in comparison to all the others. But that produced this lovely little flower spike here. So I do believe this flower spike is only gonna produce 1 flower, as you can see, but it also produced this new pseudobulb as soon as it started making more regular contact with the light. There is a fully established mature flower spike coming in right there. So that's really exciting. I didn't think anything good was happening with this plant, but number 60 is well on its way. So having said all of that, January has been very unexpectedly remarkable for my plants. I didn't expect it because I thought that the stress of the transition was really going to set these plants back because of how poorly my transition from Colorado to Los Angeles went. But they loved how I moved them. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it below. They love the water quality. They were responding incredibly to the elevated light levels. I will link the video to my Sparta Farmer LED grow light below. But across the board, I think all of the circumstances are really merging in a way that is super favorable for my plants. And this is just the assortment of plants that I wanted to show you today, but there are so many more. There is so much going on. I truly think that I am just scratching the surface and what my orchids can do and what they're going to do with all of these revised circumstances. So having said all of that, thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Be sure to support one another in the comment section because I am so seldom available to do so. Don't forget to click subscribe and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye, guys.